One of the most rewarding aspects of roasting coffee at home, other than having fresh, great coffee, is to be able to nail the roast, to be able to do exactly what you've wanted to do. And I did that today on the most unsuspecting roaster, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So stick around. Welcome to the Virtual Coffee Lab. Thanks for joining me today. For the last few weeks, I've been roasting the same coffee. It's an Ethiopian washed Sidama Karamo coffee, and I roasted it on the drum roaster, and then I roasted it on the Hive, and today I roasted it on the Behmor. And one of the things that's been a little frustrating for me is being able to try to not only nail the phase percentages for my coffee roast, but also the total roast time. And if you check those videos out, you'll see what I'm talking about. I got the total roast time on the drum roaster. I got the phase percentages on the Hive roaster. And today I'm going to try to do both of those here with the Behmor. So before we go into the video and I show you how I did this and we go through this experience together, I have a couple of disclaimers. First of all, in order for me to roast the profile that I wanted on this Behmor, I had to break all of the rules that the manufacturer says as far as safety and or warranty purposes. So I'm not recommending that you do this. I'm not promoting this concept. My Behmor has been an awesome roaster. I'm a Behmor fan. And if you're not a Behmor fan, that's okay, but you should watch this video because you go out onto some of the social networks and the forums and you hear these people that ask if they should get a Behmor or should they get, some other roasting device. And you always have people take sides, and I guess that's natural. But one of the reputations that the Behmor has is that it doesn't do shorter roasts, and it is slow as far as being able to adjust temperatures and also cool down. So some of those things are true, but that's what roasting is all about. Every device has its weaknesses, and we need to find those weaknesses and come up with creative ways, safe ways to be able to compensate for that. And that's what I did today. So please know that I'm not encouraging you to do any of this, and I realized that I shouldn't have done some of the things that I did. So here's what I did. First thing I did with the Behmor is I elevated the Behmor on the front end just about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, and I did that because I wanted the coffee in the drum to be able to be leaning back or laying on the further back side of the drum as it turns, because it's going to be exposing the coffee to the heating element, and it will promote faster roasting. So that's the first thing I did. The second thing I did is I pre-warmed the roaster twice, and I pre-warmed it up to 250 degrees. That's higher than the manufacturer recommends. And I did that because I wanted a higher charge temperature for the Behmor. My goal was to have around a 200 and really realistically, by the time I put the drum into the roaster and start the roast, 230 to 250 degree range is what I was hoping for. So I pre-warmed, and then you'll see that happen. And then the third thing is that I turned the roaster off at the end and pulled the drum out and then pushed the cool button after that. And I did that so I could get the coffee out to cool it really quick. And again, that is something you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to turn the roaster off and then turn it back on while it's that hot. So I'm not encouraging you to do any of those things. But I know I broke the rules, and I just wanted to put that out there. We're going to get this roast started, and I'm going to go ahead and narrate it. But why am I doing this? Well, there is a punchline at the end of the video, so hang around for that, because that really is, there's kind of a surprise at the end. There's actually a couple of surprises at the end of the roast that I'd like to share with you that really kind of have resonated with me overall in my whole approach to roasting. and it agrees with it. And in some ways, I learned some things, or it reinforced some things I knew that maybe I hadn't been doing as much. I'll get to all of that. So let's get started with the roast. All right. So you can see in the video here, I have the front legs elevated. The Behmor is in its pre-warming mode. And my goal is to have this pre-warm temperature be between 230 and 250 degrees. It's at 244 degrees, and I turn off the Behmor to be able to load the cassette into the Behmor with the beans already in the drum. Now, I pre-warm with the chaff tray in here because I want a lot of hot metal. I want everything in there to be as hot as possible. It's just too difficult to pre-warm the basket or the drum and then load beans in it. So I'm going to go ahead and close this door, keep the heat in as long as I can, get that chaff collector back in there that's 200 and some degrees, and I'm going to go ahead and get this roast started. I am using a half a pound setting on the Behmor, and you'll notice that I hit the P1 button. I normally hit the P1 and hit the P5, but I didn't. I'm still in the auto mode right now. But you'll notice that I have this half a pound setting, but I have a quarter pound of beans. A quarter pound of beans in the roaster. My charge temperature, as you just can see here, is 241 degrees. That is the temperature of the roasting environment after I've loaded the beans in. I'm really happy with that. If I were to start this roaster from cold, it'd probably take me 2 or 3 minutes to get up to 241 degrees. So I'm shaving that time off the roast, the total roast time, and I am promoting and pushing these beans to a 4-minute dry so that I can achieve a total roast time of 8 minutes and 30 seconds. All right, so the roast temperatures are progressing. And why am I trying to get a 4-minute dry time? Well, I mentioned the total roast time goal, but ultimately what I'm trying to do is take the profile that I started with, at least the goal that I started with the drum roaster, and apply that to each of my roasting devices. And one of the takeaways that I get from this video, I'm going to share at the end of whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, whether we should attempt to do this or not attempt to do this. All right, I just put the roaster into the manual mode now by pressing F5. So if you are not a Behmor user, I've been at 100% power the whole time on the roast. I'm using an LED light to be able to look in and see the beans. And you'll notice that the quartz element is on in the back of the roaster, and the beans are being pulled up the back wall of the roaster. So for those that use a Behmor, or for anybody that's applying direct heat to the beans using an infrared light, this is a topic. This is why my front end of my roaster is tilted backwards, or tilted up in the air, to lean the roaster back so that we can get as much bean exposure to the quartz light, and that's going to give more heat and promote a faster roast. I changed the drum speed to see if using a faster drum speed would cause the beans to move higher up the drum wall, or what would promote a faster roast, the fast drum speed or the slow drum speed. And I ended up going back to the slow drum speed because it looked like the beans were being held longer before falling down into the bean mass. And so that's what I did. All right, at 3 minutes, I'm looking again at these beans, and they're already starting to yellow a little bit. They're definitely paling. That means the bean has gone from a dark olive color to a brighter green and even a pale green. And so I am excited about that, because that means that the structure or the heat applied to the beans is now starting to cause reactions in the beans. We see the color changing, and that means we are definitely on our way to dry. I'm keeping a close eye using this LED light. This is something you can wear on your head. I use it wearing the Hive. For those that really want to get a good, true color of what's happening with the bean, an LED light is the ticket. All right, I just checked my drum speed and I'm at, or drum temperature, and I'm at 324 degrees. And so I pushed P1 to turn off the heat, and I'm going to let my roast cool or coast a little bit because that 324 degrees, my safe roasting temperature is usually like between 300 or like 310 to 320. If I can stay in that range in the earlier part of my roast, the dry end and browning, and then from there start to work my way down in temperature, I mean, I want to do that. That's my goal, is to be able to do that. Now, in about 15 seconds, I'm going to face a challenge that every Behmor roasting device has, and that is that the fan is going to turn on. This fan is going to start to draw out heat. My temperatures have slowly been going down, but I know that I'm going to lose a lot of my heat momentum. So I turned my roaster to P4 right now. That's 75% power. And the fan just kicked on. And you can see the temperature drop here. It goes from 304, now we're at 297, and it's just going to keep dropping. If you didn't do anything with your heat, or if you just had like a P3 or a P4 on this going, and that fan kicks on, you're going to be down at 250 degrees by the time the fan turns back off. It's kind of shocking. But if you anticipate and prepare for it, then you know, it is what it is, and you can recover. And so that's what I did. I've got it on P4, and my temperatures are now going to start climbing because the fan has kicked off. By the way, I did make my 4-minute dry. I didn't mention that. But I showed it in the video that I called dry end and marked it at 4 minutes.
Okay.
All right, we're at 6 minutes. My next target temperature is going to be about 7 minutes and 10 seconds. I want to get to first crack by 7 minutes and 10 seconds. And so that's 3 minutes and 10 seconds for my browning phase. And then ultimately, I'm going to have 1 minute and 20 seconds-ish for my development phase. That's the goal for my roast. I'm constantly checking the bean color, and I do want to smell the beans, and so it's okay if you can open and close the Behmor door really quick. You can get a real nice whiff just to see what's happening with the beans, or if you're having a hard time seeing the color well, open the door real quick and take a quick peek. That's okay. You really won't lose too much heat, but if you open the door and hold it open, you're definitely going to lose heat. All right. So what I want to do is I want to time
P4
to first crack, and I want to make sure I have enough momentum to get me there at 7 minutes and 10 seconds, but not too much momentum where I'm going too quickly. So my temperatures seem to be in line, and I'm hearing first crack hit, but it's like a muffled pop. It's not a pop or a snap. But I called first crack at 7:19, I believe it was, or 7:18. And 7:17.
Started around 7.
Started at about 7:17, and now we're into the development phase. You can hear crack rolling right now. That's good, and I don't want this to get pushed through first crack, and so I reduce my temperature. I'm listening to the frequency of the crack, and I'm determining how much momentum I have based on the frequency of the crack. If this is just cracking like crazy, then I have too much momentum, and it's not going to give me enough time in development. If it's a controlled crack where it's continuous but it's not bursting, then I know I've got a nice pace going. And if I see it start to just pop and kind of drag, then I know that I don't have enough momentum. At 8 minutes and 30 seconds, it's more like 8:34 or something like that. I'll look at all my times after. I drop the coffee by turning the roaster off, pulling out the cassette, and I've got my cooling tray right here that I've got turned on, and I dump the beans into the cooling tray. This happened kind of quick. A lot of times the roasts take longer. You know, I mean, we're roasting on the Behmor. A lot of people are roasting 11, 12, 13 minutes. And this is an 8.5 minute roast. So that in itself is a challenge. Watching for the temperature cutoff is a challenge. And trying to hit your marks is a challenge. This was not easy for me to do, and it took me a couple tries to try to figure this out and get this right. But I'm happy that within a couple of seconds, a few seconds, and within a percentage or so, that I made all of my target times and temperatures with the Behmor. And that was a surprise, and that was an awesome thing. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, I've accomplished everything I want to accomplish with this roast. But I haven't, because I haven't tasted this coffee. So one of the things that I learned that I got that was the takeaway from all this is that I hit my mark. It was a 48% dry phase, a 37% browning phase, and a 15% development phase. So I was like a percent or two off with the development. I was right on my browning, and I was within a percent or two within my dry time. And I'm happy with that. But as far as the taste goes, that was the real surprise. So if you remember on the drum, or if you look back on my previous videos, I got a 30% browning phase on the drum. And I ended up with a tangerine, a really nice citrus tangerine note that was in there. There was definitely some sweetness in the coffee, a little bit of a graham cracker going on. Then I went to the Hive, and that was good. There were some darker berry notes that were in there. There was a little bit of an underlying sweetness, as well as some other notes. But I really liked the tangerine. I kept on thinking back to the tangerine. Well, on this roast, so I hit my total roast time of 8:30, and I hit all my phases. And then when I went to taste the coffee, I had just a very subtle berry note that was in there. A little bit of a citrus, gentle lemon. So there was kind of a juicy, puckery note that was in there, but it wasn't anything really clear and really definable and really exciting. And there was a little bit of a hollow, kind of a woody, hollow note in the coffee that I'm wondering if maybe I didn't have enough development in the coffee. I wasn't really excited about the end result that I got from the roast profile. I think the takeaway, one of the takeaways, and this is kind of the surprises in all of this, is that as we search for the roast profile that we want, it's trial and error. We're trying to figure this out. I've watched a lot of professional coffee roasters, and they talk about this. That's why they do sample roasts, because they think they've got an idea of what they want to do with their times and temperatures, but ultimately they're tasting the coffee. And that's what I've been doing each week with you guys, is I've been tasting the coffee and trying to decide, hey, what do I like better? What tastes better for this coffee? And I think that is one of the biggest takeaways is that we should try different different types of roasts, phase percentages, and total roast time for a particular coffee that we have. Now, you might be saying, hey, I'm only buying a bag or two at a time. I'm not going to waste my time doing that. And that's okay. If that's how you want to handle and treat your hobby, you just want to roast some coffee, have fresh coffee, that's awesome. You're happy, and I'm happy for you. But if you're trying to figure out a little bit more about roasting coffee and what you can do to improve it, or change your roast style, then you really end up falling into this type of approach that we've just been walking through the last few videos here. And that is that you start with a a roast profile, how you normally roast it, and then you make changes to that roast the next time, and then you compare. So you're going to need to make notes, you're going to need to journal your times and temperatures, and then you're just going to have to compare it and see what you like better and what you're going to try differently. Rob Hoos was on my channel, and he made the statement that roasting coffee is time over temperature. And that's true. It is really true. How much time we spend roasting the coffee and the temperatures that we use during that time are going to influence our flavors. All right, well, thank you for joining me today. If you have comments or questions, leave those in the comment section below. If you have something you saw in this video that you want to ask me about, go ahead and ask that question. And if you've had an experience of roasting the same coffee over and over, and you've experimented with different profiles, share the results from that. Share how that coffee changed based on the total roast time and or the phase percentages and how you made changes to that. Did you like what you did? Did you find the sweet spot? Tell us about that experience. And also be sure, whenever you leave comments, share the type of roaster that you're using. That's really helpful for people. It gives some context to the whole roasting home thing, because there's so many different types of home coffee roasters, the devices that are out there. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today. I hope you guys have a great week roasting, and we'll see you next time.